Peace, mercy, and blessings of Allah be upon you. Now we want to see together the circuit breaker failure in low current mode or without current mode. So, what am I going to do? We know it is the current, meaning the current is always present. As soon as it comes to me, as long as there is current, whether in low current mode or without current mode. Okay, if you want to activate low current mode, then with in-barrel and current criteria, you will activate the circuit breaker auxiliary contact criteria allowed. How will you activate it? You have the option of either no, like in the case of current mode only, if you are ventilating the circuit breaker position closed 3 pole. This means you are saying in case you receive an initiation and there is no current and the breaker is closed, then at that time this is considered low current mode and it should also give a trip. If there is an effect, whether the breaker or the breaker before, it doesn't matter, okay? Good, so I chose this mode. All right, we will come to the dropout. I will tell you with the effective criteria or with the auxiliary contact and current criteria. I will actually test both. Let's start with the effective criteria, then we will go to information routing, open the circuit breaker and go to position. Here, we will press binary input, close high. In the information routing, I will open the circuit breaker and go to the position. And here I will program binary input close high. Is that okay? Very good. So what does this mean? It means that when this binary input becomes active high, it means the breaker is closed. All right, very excellent. Okay, I will go back here again. How do I inject? Quite simply, I will completely remove the currents to 0, whether on the first page or the second page. And then what do? I go to the binary input. Last time it was only working after 100 milliseconds, meaning after the end of the first page, in synchronization with the second page. Now, I will also operate from the fridge, which is the one that will send with SEP close, which is neutral, to SEP close people. So, at the end of the first page, which is 100 milliseconds long, and at the beginning of the second page, the relay will see the breaker close state and will see with it the initiation. So it will start to give what it gives. It will give the breaker filler trip, and this is what happened in front of us. Okay, straighten up, Rashad. You forgot to give the breaker close trip. At that time, the breaker filler will not work because it means the breaker has opened. Okay, straighten up. You gave the initiation and with it the pilot. Rashad, what will happen now? In this case, the breaker failure will activate. Why? Because it's always working with me. The idea is clear. So we're all set regarding the topic of regarding the topic that is. Now let's move on to the dropout. The dropout I had was something called with and another thing called with, and on the effective criteria and something called with the actual contact and current criteria. Nice. Okay. When we used to start with a current, as soon as this current decreases or as soon as the fridge disconnects, the current stops, so the function happens. But now you've added something else with it. So what's the difference going to be between, or if I choose the other option? Let's first do it. And the current criteria. Let's first do it and set the criteria. All right, so I'm going to do the same injection where I have initiation and the breaker is closed, but this time on the second page, I'll remove the stop of goal and keep the contact here in black, which means not used because I don't want to stop the injection. All right, so what am I going to do now? I'm going to inject like this. Now I have a trip. So now as a supervisor, I'm telling you that I'm going to remove the binary input of the breaker being closed. All right, I've removed the binary input of the breaker being closed. What happened? The function reset. Why? Because the function operated through initiation with the breaker condition. All right, stop and reconnect the input again. Let's say you will inject a binary input initiation ni'man along with the breaker condition current and the data started. Alright, now if you remove the binary input for the breaker condition, the function won't detect. The effective criteria for you is the current. What does that mean, Rashad? Does it mean both need to drop? Does it mean the breaker should be open and the current should also drop, Rashad? No. I want to tell you that if the current was present and disappeared without the breaker opening as a status, it will still be detected by the relay. Prove it to us. To prove it to you, I need to inject 3 pages. So we will inject 3 stages like this. In the first normal state, the second state, for example, I'll set its time to 200 milliseconds, all right, and it will have the current. The third state, I will inject it with a very long time, all right, and I will set the contact here to not used. Great, very excellent. So what's the idea? The idea is that I will keep the initiation present and the breaker state as closed, but what changes? What changes is that in the third stage, it's as if I sent the current and left the breaker closed as usual. All right, let's see what will happen. You'll be delighted, and then what happened? Even with, I mean, now the broker is still, yes, of course, still now, up to now. What's the situation? You're begging. Up to now. And what's the broker's condition? The idea is clear, but if I were just not injecting a pilot at all, here it is. Sorry, if I'm not injecting a pilot at all, I mean the whole issue arose because of a breaker solution only, so the function won't reset. Here, we'll see the same injection didn't change anything. There's no current, so it will remain in front of you because the breaker didn't open. But if there was a current and it disappeared, then what will happen is it will reset. All right then, if I choose the second option with auxiliary contact and current criteria, what does that mean? Let's see together. We'll send this setting to the relay. Here it is. It's important, all we're going to do is try with both options. I will inject in the second page a current, here it is, 0.3. So now on the third page, all I did was reset the current, but didn't reset the breaker state. What will happen here is that it will trip, but won't reset until Rashad removes the breaker state. Let's remove it now. The breaker state reset with me. Clear. Nice. Now let's do the opposite, where I lower the current but leave the breaker. So now I've lowered the current but left the breaker closed. What happened is it didn't reset until the breaker also opened, right? Okay, now let's open the breaker and leave the current. We'll open the breaker and leave the current as it is on this page. But I'll open the breaker. What does it mean to open the breaker? I'll add another stage here and see how much time I have on the second page. Here it is. Just like this second page is 200. Okay, nice. So I want to come to this third page in an open state, so I'll come here to this page during 300, which is the sum of the 100 from the first page plus 200 from the second page. So let it be 300, but in a state where I return to the normal settings, meaning what? It means before and after. Now the current is present, but the breaker has opened, so what happened is that it didn't reset either. So this option means that both must happen. The current decreases, and the state of the breaker is what? The state of the breaker becomes okay. Is that clear? So we have finished the current mode, and if the current mode